to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this.
Bird flu, so let's go to Harry in New York. Harry, what's on your mind?
Great job. And,
thanks, man.
I wanted to say, I've been screaming about this bird flu stuff for the last 2 days. I work in a small pizza shop. I've been telling everybody that I know that there was live bird flu. It's sent out to 18 countries, and people just look at you. They don't even know how to interface with the information. It's like, I look at them, they're like helpless little children. I'm like, do you understand that this can kill millions, if not billions of people? And they just kind of look at you like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the U.S. media is not even covering this. I mean, this is very important news.
On August 17th, Dr. A. True Ott was a guest of Dr. Bill Deagle on the Dr. Deagle Show. He said that a man named Joseph Moshe had called into his Born on the 4th of July RBN radio show on August 11th. The purpose of the show that day had been to compile evidence of the source of the H1N1 strain. He claimed Moshe told him he was a microbiologist from Los Angeles and had evidence that a biological weapon was being developed by Baxter Laboratories in Ukraine. He said he had documents proving an outbreak of a mutated H1N1 strain would be precipitated at the end of October under the guise of a flu vaccine. He also said the vaccine contained an additive that weakened the immune system.
Everyone has AIDS! AIDS!
At first he didn't think Moshe was legit, but the next day's events made him rethink that assumption. The day after he called the radio show, agents knocked on the door of his house. When he didn't answer, they set up surveillance and questioned his neighbors. The next morning, August 13th, Moshe got into his 2002 Volkswagen Beetle and headed for the Israeli embassy where he believed he'd be safe. He was followed by a helicopter and cars from multiple government agencies. Before he could arrive at the embassy, his car was blocked in by armored Humvees, dozens of police and FBI agents, K-9 units, a SWAT team, snipers, and the Secret Service. His car was hit by an EMP pulse which knocked out the transmission and his mobile devices. They then sprayed tear gas and pepper spray into the car. Moshe, who had worked for Mossad, the intelligence agency of Israel, had been trained to build up resistance to tear gas and managed to stay inside the car with the documents. A microwave weapon may have burned his skin, and a robot was used to remotely break the windows. Moshe was then tasered and dragged from the car at gunpoint several hours after the standoff began. The mainstream media immediately reported Moshe was a mentally ill conspiracy theorist criminal who had called in a threat to blow up the White House. According to Moshe's 90-year-old mother Julia from nearby Beverly Hills, he may have taken an antidepressant, but he had no history of aggression or psychosis. He certainly doesn't appear to have ties to conspiracy theory groups, any significant criminal record, and there's no proof he made threats against the White House. At the end of October, reports began coming out of Ukraine about an especially virulent infection that was noteworthy because it was 10 times more deadly than the known H1N1 virus, and was filling the victims' lungs with blood and turning them black. Ukraine's President Viktor Yushchenko declared martial law, blocked travel, and banned protest. He's since downplayed the pandemic and retracted some of those decrees, stating the upcoming election will proceed as planned. In only 3 weeks, the number of infected has skyrocketed to 1.6 million. In a country like Ukraine, that's a lot of people sick. Hundreds already dead, doctors, nurses, civilians. At first, some believed the outbreak could be the pandemic plague, a bacterial infection that targets the lungs, caused the Black Death pandemic in the 1300s, and still crops up from time to time, including recently in China. But plague kills even faster than this outbreak does, and can easily be cured with the antibiotic gentamicin. Other theorized culprits were the H1N1, either the known form or a mutated strain, or some other microbe. The World Health Organization, which had collected and analyzed samples early in the outbreak, delayed releasing the results for almost 3 weeks. They repeatedly denied that the results indicated the infection was caused by a mutated strain of H1N1.
There are fears that the H1N1 virus has now mutated and resembles the Spanish flu virus that killed more than 50 million people at the beginning of the 20th century. Ukrainian doctors say the lungs of the victims are as black as charcoal. This prompts fresh concern that the swine flu virus has taken a deadly new form. Our correspondent Igor Ogorodnev went to the epicenter of the outbreak in western Ukraine.
Make no mistake about it, Ukraine is in the throes of a swine flu crisis. I'm here in Lviv. Lviv has been one of the hotspots where the virus has been at its worst. It's become fashionable to trivialize swine flu and say it's just like normal flu. But doctors here say it isn't. It's more aggressive and it's more likely to lead to complications. And then there are those who claim the epidemic was engineered by pharmaceutical companies.
This may be a mutation of H1N1. Autopsies being performed are showing that the victims' lungs are pitch black. The DNA of a woman who died of the 1918 pandemic was recovered from her corpse. The DNA was used to recreate this virus.
With H5N1 flu, this is a strain that kills up to 60% of the people it infects, more than Ebola.
Committee, the NSABB.
The U.S. National Science Advisory Board for Biosecurity made the unprecedented decision last month to call for the censorship of a pair of papers in scientific journals that describe how to make a novel, human-transmissible form of bird flu that could kill unprecedented numbers of people.
That involves every branch of the federal government, and they approved the making of the 1918 flu virus at the CDC from DNA and RNA that was isolated from people that had died in 1918 from the flu. This has led to understanding the source of the most lethal parts of the virus.
So this research, which was done at the University of Wisconsin and at Erasmus University in the Netherlands, was aimed at determining whether the H5N1 avian influenza virus could be made to transmit from human to human.
The third synthetic virus after polio, then 5X, was the recent synthesis of the 1918 flu virus, and this is the first true Jurassic Park scenario where the RNA was isolated from the lungs of a woman that was buried in the permafrost in 1918. The RNA was sequenced, and then using techniques similar to what I just showed you, the virus reconstructed at the CDC and shown to be as infective as predicted.
The World Health Organization denies that this is anything but ordinary swine flu.
Then, today, quietly, the WHO released the results. Here's a screenshot showing the Ukraine outbreak is indeed caused by a D225G receptor-binding domain change, exactly what H1N1 needed to become more deadly and more easily spread from person to person. A little background on Baxter. Back in February, they distributed a mixture of live flu viruses throughout Europe, labeled as H5N1 flu vaccine. By chance, some ferrets were injected at a lab in Czech Republic and promptly died. Baxter admitted their error. Experts stated if the viral cocktail had been injected into humans, aside from obviously causing another outbreak, the viruses would have combined through a process called reassortment into an incredibly dangerous hybrid strain. For a live viral cocktail to be shipped in place of human vaccines, several strict security measures and dozens of human errors would have to have occurred at the same time. Baxter refused to disclose how the accident occurred, saying doing so would give their competitors knowledge of their procedures. In addition, there's a rumor that Obama owns Baxter stock, but I haven't been able to substantiate that. Who and where is Moshe? First, here's his profile on an Israeli research website. It shows he worked there until 2004 and was voted top Israeli scientist in 1996 for his work in virology. A man with similar appearance and the same name was dramatically arrested and jailed in Los Angeles in August. A radio show host then announced a man with the same name and background had told him Baxter would release a mutated H1N1 strain in Ukraine in late October. An outbreak began in Ukraine in late October and has now been confirmed as a mutated H1N1 strain.
Groundhog Day!